Hi, I'm corporate trainer Dana Brownlee, and I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is work-life balance. In the workplace, I've found four distinct work-life balance personalities or approaches, and I'd like to talk about a few pros and cons of each one. The model that I developed is based on two main criteria. The first one is willingness to sacrifice and say no. And then the second one is level of organization and intentionality. And using these two factors, we create four different work life balance personalities. I'll sleep when I'm dead, yoga master, rose colored glasses, and the white flag. I'm going to take a minute or so to talk about each one. So the first one is called I'll sleep when I'm dead. This is the mom or dad who doesn't want to say no to anything. They're very type A. They're operating at 110% capacity at all times. They're also conveniently very organized. So they do tend to get a lot accomplished. You know this mom. This is the one that's got a pivot table of different summer camp options, or the first one to volunteer to be the school mom. It sounds great, but there's also a downside. This is also the person who probably is one failed school project away from having a nervous breakdown, whether they realize it or not. So, what are a couple suggestions if you think, that I provide to you if you thought you were the I'll sleep when I'm dead mom or dad? One, schedule relaxation appointments for yourself. And I know that sounds crazy and it sounds silly, but part of the problem with this sort of approach or personality is this is the type of person that when they find themselves with nothing to do for 15 or 20 minutes, they freak out a little bit. They don't know what to do. They feel like they're wasting their time. And so we really have to kind of reconnect and relearn how to spend time with ourselves, how to have downtime, how to decompress, how to actually sit and think about things for a few minutes. So get in the habit of scheduling those relaxation appointments. Whether you're actually meditating or not is up to you, but just scheduling that downtime can be really, really key. Next tip that I'll suggest is each month get into the habit of reviewing that month's calendar, what you committed to, and try to find at least three items that you could have either declined, just said no, delegated to someone else, or outsourced and got it accomplished some other way. And then apply that sort of thinking to the next month's calendar. Because another mistake these moms and dads can make a lot of times is they feel like they personally have to do everything. So getting in the habit of relinquishing control and accepting that, you know what, maybe it's worth it to let somebody else do it. Maybe it wouldn't be done exactly the way I would do it, but relinquishing that control can have huge time management benefits. And then finally, write a list of your top three personal and professional goals. Write it really big in marker and then tape that on your bathroom mirror. You want to have a constant reminder of what is truly important so that you don't feel that you have to say yes to everything and so that you're not overcommitting. So you really want to constantly remind yourself of what's really, really important. So the next type is called rose colored glasses. And this is the person who wants to do it all. So they're not very willing to say no. They don't want to sacrifice. But unfortunately, they're not as organized as the I'll sleep when I'm dead personality. So this can be truly, truly frustrating because they're accepting tasks left and right. They're volunteering. They're saying that they'll do things, but then things are starting to fall through the cracks because they really are not very organized. So, a few tips for that, mom or dad. One, hire a professional organizer. I mean, get someone in there to get you decluttered, to really start you off from a place of organization. And with that, also have some type of calendaring system or organization system that truly works for you. Don't become tempted to become overly sophisticated or feel like you've got to use a system that somebody else is using. I don't care if your system is just a bound notebook. and you carry that notebook with you wherever you go and you document everything in that notebook. I personally prefer simplicity. I think it just makes everything easier. But develop a system that works for you to track things and use that to help keep you on top of things. Another tip, get in the habit of not committing to requests in the moment. So get used to saying things like, that sounds great, I'll need a day or two to get back to you. Or say that you need to check with your spouse or check with your calendar. But avoid the temptation to commit to anything in the moment. So try to avoid doing that. You also might want to develop some sort of quota for volunteer activities so that you're not volunteering for things left and right. You also might want to expand it and have a quota for your entire family or for your kids. Maybe there's a restriction that says in your family where you say, hey, only one extracurricular activity per semester per kid. But you really want to think about having some sort of limit so that you don't get tempted to overcommit. So the next personality type I call the white flag. This is the person who really has a very high willingness to say no to sacrifice. Maybe they've over sacrificed. Maybe they're saying no a little bit too much and not really engaging in the things that are really important to them. Unfortunately, they have a really low level of intentionality. They're just very passive. They're just kind of going through life. I say this personality is the one that's just kind of checked out. They're, just kind of going through the motions. They don't really seem to have much of a zest about anything. What I've tended to find is that this personality style might be one that's developed over time after someone has been burnt out from one of the other styles. So maybe you've got a mom or dad who was the I'll sleep when I'm dead mom for 5 years and got so burnt out that they went to the other extreme and became the white flag, where they just are waving the flag, they've kind of given up, and they're trying to do really as little as possible. So for them, a few suggestions. One, try to reconnect with what you're most excited about. Think about when you were happiest, when you were most excited and happiest at home and at work, and try to write a list of what those priorities would be. And again, put that list somewhere visible, like on your bathroom mirror, so that you can constantly be reminded about that. Next suggestion is proactively kind of seek feedback from other moms or dads. I love this one because I think it makes you feel so good to feel like you're not alone. So try to reconnect with some other moms or dads who do feel fully engaged and not overwhelmed, and see what they're doing, see what's working for them. And then finally, maybe talk to your closest friends and ask them for some feedback on where they think you shine, where they think your strengths are, where they think you can make your best contribution. So sometimes you can't see it in yourself, but other people can remind you of what an asset and a joy you are. So getting that feedback from others can be so helpful. Then the last one I call the yoga master. This is the person who's willing to say no. They have a high willingness to sacrifice, but they also have a high level of organization and intentionality. Of the four types, this is probably the one that is the least stressed, the least anxious, and the most balanced. So for them, I just offer a couple basic suggestions. Remind yourself of your yes activities. Because they're sacrificing, because they are saying no to a few things, it becomes really important to remember that that no, in many ways, is really saying yes to something else. So instead of focusing on what we're not doing, we need to always focus on what we are doing, what we are accomplishing. And then also strive for daily self care. Try to do something for yourself every single day, whether it's something as simple as bringing a candle with a scent that you really like, or sprinkling some aromatherapy on your pillow, or allowing yourself to get that favorite coffee beverage from the coffee shop, but just something to kind of reconnect with yourself and provide some level of daily self care. So, these are just some tips as we all try to conquer the elusive work life balance. If you're interested in reading the full article, you can find it on HuffingtonPost.com. It's called The Four Work Life Balance Personalities. Which one are you? And as always, if you're interested in additional videos, additional articles, or tips and recommendations for productivity, please reach out to my website, professionalismmatters.com/resources. Thanks so much.